Hello everyone and welcome to the Facebook Live on the Gelli Arts Facebook page. So nice to see you all here. As I said, my first time to do a Facebook Live and I'm a little bit nervous, but I'll be fine. I'm going to do today a demo about using multiple products on the gel plate. It's mixed media on the gel plate basically, and I'm going to focus today on alcohol markers and PanPastel and some other stuff, but that's the main products that I will be using. And you can do some really fun things with permanent products on the gel plate, and that's what I'm going to show you today. So I think I'm going to turn the camera around so you can see what I'm doing. So I'm going to be working with the 3x5 inch plate today. I really like this little plate because you can use it for prints to make cards or for prints to use in mini books, and it's also a really fun plate to bring with you if you go on vacation or travel or whatever. As you can see, I've stored my plate between copier paper. And that is so you don't get these like air bubbles. If you store it in a plastic case, you will get air bubbles, and you will see the air bubbles in your prints. So to make sure that you don't get air bubbles, it's best to store your plate between copier paper. So as I said, we're going to do mixed media prints today using alcohol markers and PanPastel. And here are two samples that I made today. And I made these by taking a picture from a magazine as a reference for my drawing. So what you can do with your gel plate is put it on top of a photo, and you can see through it, as you can see, like I'm doing it now. And then you can draw the picture. So this is perfect for people who can't draw. If you want to draw faces or anything else, you can just put the gel plate on a picture and then use your alcohol markers to trace the image. And then you can use PanPastel or Posca markers or other brand acrylic markers, and even stamping inks to color and embellish your prints. So I'm going to show you today how to work with these alcohol markers or permanent markers and PanPastel on the plate. So this was the reference for this one, and the reference for this one is this. So you can see you don't actually have to do it exactly, draw exactly what you see in your picture. It's more like it's a guideline to create a print that you like. So I'm going to start really easy with just using the markers, and I'm going to take another photo. I think this is a nice one, and I'm going to put the plate on top the way I want it to be in my final print. What you always have to keep in mind when you're jelly printing is that your image will be mirrored. So you can not do this technique with letters or numbers, because then you will get a mirrored image and you will not be able to read it. So there are a lot of different alcohol markers and permanent solvent based markers, and I have a couple here. So I have some Sharpies, and I have a Staedtler permanent marker. I have the Cure Color from Zig. I have Copic. I have Spectrum Noir and Nouveau, and they all work on the gel plate. And maybe you have another brand and probably it will also work on the gel plate. When it's alcohol or solvent based, it will work on the gel plate and you will always be able to remove it from the gel plate. Even if you don't get a good print, you will be able to remove the ink from the plate. So don't worry, just actually try out some things on your plate. You can't even imagine how many different products I've thrown on my plates, and I've never ever ruined any. I've always been able to clean my plate so it's usable again. Sometimes I have a product that stains the plate. Like last week I tried some oil-based markers on the plate and they didn't work very well, and the pigments in there really stained the plate, and even cleaning it with oil didn't work. So I had some nice yellow flowers on my plate that I couldn't remove, but it does not affect how the plate works. So even if there is anything that stains your plate, it might not look very nice, but your plate will just work as it did before. So all of these work, but my favorite is the Zig Cure Color. And why is that? That's because it dries very, very fast. So I don't have to wait. And I'm a very impatient person, so I don't like to wait. So this is perfect. And this one pulls like really, really easy from the plate. So some of the markers will need more pressure or will always leave a little bit behind on the plate, but this one pulls very easily, so this is my favorite. So I'm just going to trace my image with the marker, and I'll just start here at the top of the head where the hair is, and just draw the outlines. And I like it when the hair is a little bit wild and not too perfect, because then I don't have to do it too perfect either. So I'm just following loosely the hair, and then I'm going to draw details in the face. So now I always like to kind of dramatize the shadows, so I like to make big shadows. Now my iPad thinks I'm calling Siri, which I don't, but okay. So I usually, when I do this, even when the mouth is open, when someone is smiling, I draw it closed, because normally when you try to draw teeth, they will not look so nice. So it's better not to try that. So of course, when you do this at home, you can take all the time you need to do a drawing. So you can make it very detailed. You can even take days to make your drawing, because this is going to dry on the plate. It even has to dry on the plate to make a nice print. So you can take all the time you need. You don't have to hurry. I don't have to hurry, but I don't want you to watch me draw a face for like 45 minutes, right? So I'm going to do a really quick one. So let me see. So this one is probably already dry. I'm going to take it off my photo and put it on a little card, and the card is going to be the same size as the paper that I'm going to print on, and I'm going to put the gel plate in the middle of that card, so I can line up my paper with the paper that's underneath the gel plate, and my print will also be in the middle. So if I make a whole series of prints, all of them will be in the same position, and I can bind them, for instance, together into a mini book and doodle or draw or stamp or whatever in the frame around the print, or I can leave it just as it is, white. So the first one, I'm not yet going to add any PanPastel. I just want to show you how the permanent marker works. The only thing I'm going to add to this is some acrylic paint marker. I'm going to color the lips, and when you do the coloring, you can go over the black lines, because what you have to keep in mind when you do layered gel printing, if you put more than one layer on the gel plate, that the layer you put on first will be the top layer of your print. So that means that if you draw anything with a black pen and you color on top of it, when you pull the print, it will be turned around and the black will be on top of the color, which makes it really easy, much easier to color than when you would do the print first and then color it. So I have to wait a little bit for the paint marker to dry, the Posca marker, because that's acrylic paint, and I'm going to keep it a little bit closer. Maybe you can see that this is still a bit shiny, that it's still wet. It takes a little bit longer than the paint marker to dry. So I'm going to have a look what color paint I will use to pull the print. Of course I can do only white, but if I only do a basic like this with only using the alcohol marker and no additional color, I like to pull a print with a color of paint. So not white paint, but a color plus a little bit of white, because I don't want only a color. So let me see if the Posca is dry. I think it is. So as I'm using a tiny little plate, I'm also going to use a tiny little brayer. So this one is from Speedball, but Gelli Arts have their own brayers, only that's a bigger one, so that's why I'm using this one right now. But this one you can of course also find on the website gelliarts.com. That's where you also can find all the other products from Gelli Arts, and this cute little plate too, of course. So when you want to, if you want to pull dry product from the plate, it's very important that you use a very thin layer of paint. If you use a thick layer of paint, the paper you put on top will only pull the top layer of the thick layer of paint, and it will not pull the dried product that's underneath. So I'm going to add a tiny little bit of a yellow acrylic, and this is Deco Art Premium, by the way, that I'm using, and a tiny little bit of white. And I make sure to have some roll of paper ready, because if there is happens to be too much paint on my plate, I have to roll off my brayer, because when I clean my brayer I can take off some of the paint that's too much maybe there. So I'm going to start rolling out the paint, and as you can see, it's a really thin layer. You can actually see the image quite well. And then I'm going to put the paper on top, and I'm going to line it up with the paper that's underneath the jelly plate, and then rub firmly, and then I'm going to pull the print. There you go. So as you can see, my plate is almost clean. That means that I used exactly the right amount of paint, because if I had used more paint, there would have been paint that stayed behind on the plate, and also not all of the alcohol marker would have come off. So the only thing that is a little bit left is some of the Posca marker, so maybe I used just a little bit too much there, but that's okay. So I will clean that off, and I'm using a baby wipe to do that. Okay, that should be good enough. And then I'm going to dry it. Let me see, I had some, paper towels. I'm going to dry the plate, because if you don't dry the plate, any product that you put on there right now will be, what's the right word, diluted? I think that's the right word. So let's do another one. And then I'm going to actually also add PanPastel. And PanPastel is pastel, like a pastel stick, but it's in a pan. And this is how it looks. So it's very compressed pastel in a pan, and you can use soft tools that look like makeup sponges to apply PanPastel to your surface that you're working on. You can, like eyeshadow actually, you can just get the PanPastel from the pan and then apply to wherever you want it to be. So I have PanPastel here, but you can also use, for instance, the pastels from Jane Davenport, the palette pastel, and you can even use eyeshadow, like just normal eyeshadow. It works. But I prefer the PanPastel because the PanPastel is very, very pigmented and gives a very opaque result, and that's what I really like about it. So that's why I'm going to use that now. So let's take the same photo so I can actually show you the difference when you use PanPastel and when you don't. So I'm going to draw the same image another time, and I'm going to try and do it as quickly as I can. Okay. And I think I will actually also add some stamping to this one. Okay. I wish I could hear you instead of only being able to read some of the comments, because it feels weird, very weird sitting here and it's as if I'm talking to myself. Nobody is answering, but I'm okay. So this is my girl again, sort of. And now I can use the PanPastel to color this image, and I'm going to take the plate from the photo, and I'm going to put it again on this white card, because on the white background I can see better what I've colored and if I colored good enough. So let's get the PanPastels here, and I'm going to start with the hair. And as I said, the black will be on top of the color when I pull the print, so I really don't have to be careful at all while I'm coloring. I'll just have to make sure that I cover everything. Another thing that you have to keep in mind when you do this, when you work in layers, like I said, what you put on first will be on top. So if, for instance, I want to give this lady some red cheeks, I have to make sure that I do the cheeks before I do the rest of her face in a lighter color. Because if I do the lighter color first, and since the PanPastel is so opaque, you will not see that I put on a darker color later. So I have to think about that. You have to kind of work backwards. Like when you would color on paper, you would do the color of the face first and then add the pink or the red cheeks, and now I have to do them first. So let's do that. And I'm not going to care about accuracy here. I'm just going to make it's colorful. Because we can, right? So I'm going to add again the white of the eyes with my Posca marker, because I want them to be really white. And here's my okay. So let's add some color to the face. You can mix colors, PanPastel colors also. Let me get another tool. So I can take more than one color and kind of mix them. While I'm working on the plate. So let's give her some nice eyeshadow too. So I'm going to leave that area open now, because if I fill it now with the skin tones, then I will not be able to go over it with, well, I will be able to go over it with another color, but you will not see it, so I have to leave that open for another color. Okay. Don't worry too much about the coloring, because although I say that you have to make sure that you do it in the right order, when you pull the print, that doesn't have to be the end. It doesn't have to be the end result. You know what I mean? So you can create the whole, your whole page or card or project or whatever it is you're making on the gel plate, but nobody says that you cannot work on it further once you've put the print. So anything that isn't the way you want it to be, or if you forget a little piece, to color a little piece or anything, you can always go back in there with your alcohol marker or with the PanPastel or with pens or even with totally other media to finalize your print, right? You don't have to keep it as it is while you, oops, here, see, here I'm making a mistake, I'm adding. So I hope you don't see too much of it, and otherwise I will fix it after the print. So this is the PanPastel part, and I said I'm going to add some stamping to this one, because if you can use alcohol markers on and solvent markers on the gel plate, it means that you can also use alcohol and solvent inks on the gel plate, like for instance StazOn. You can also use archival, and there are a couple of other permanent inks that you can use, but my favorites are StazOn and archival, and StazOn is my number first, because like with the alcohol marker, this one is drying the quickest, the fastest. So and as I don't want to sit around and wait forever, I'm going to use this one. So I'm going to use the black one now, but you can use any color of StazOn or archival to stamp on the gel plate. It's totally up to you. But I'm going to use the black one and then color the stamped images too. So I'm going to add some stars. And this is one of my designs for Carabella Studio. I have a range of stamps and stencils and art printing plates with Carabella Studio, which you can see here. This is the name, Carabella Studio. And you can recognize all of my products from the blue color. All the Carabella designers have their own color, and my color is the blue. So I'm going to use this one. And I'm going to just add the stamps to the plate. How fun is that? Look at that. I think that's pretty cool. So even though this is the fastest drying ink on the plate, it still needs a little bit of time to dry. It doesn't dry as fast as the alcohol markers do. So I have to put this aside for a little while to dry. But this afternoon I already worked on another plate, so I can finish this one while we're waiting for the other one to dry. So this one was made from this image. So this is the original image, and this is my PanPastel colored drawing on the plate. So instead of using stamps, you can also use stencils with PanPastel. So I have a couple of my stencils here. These are also my designs, and I think that I'm going to use this one. So I'm just going to put that stencil there and bring in the PanPastel again. And I'm just going to add the PanPastel through the stencil. Again, let's make it colorful just because we can. So when I finished doing this part, I can just lift up the stencil and put it down here and continue working there, which I will do. So let's put some green in the open areas. So I will lift it up so you can see it better. And now let's do the last little bit here. There we go. There we go. That's that one. So this one is ready to print, and I'm going to use only white to print this one, because I don't want to change the color of the part where the PanPastel is, and I like it when there's a lighter color in the open areas from the stencil. what you can do when you finished your drawing and your coloring, you can take it off the plate and turn it around and look at it from this side to see how about your print will look when you pulled it. So you can also see very well here when you turn it around if there are any areas that you forgot to color, but this one looks fine. So I'm going to put it back here and get some paper ready. And now add a tiny little bit again of white paint. Now I'm going to roll out the paint. And this is always the scary moment. I mean, you've put quite some time in doing all the drawing and the coloring and everything. And what if you don't get a nice print? And you know what? That happens to me too. Because everybody always says that I make it look so easy. And that's true. And a lot of things are actually very easy. But you know, I don't share my failures, and I do have them. So let's see how this one goes. And there we go. Look at that. How cool is that? So, as you can see, there are some white areas here. That means actually that I used a little bit too much white paint. So the layer of paint was not thin enough to pull all the color from the plate. And if you look closely at the plate, then you can see that there is some white paint left behind. But as I said, don't worry too much about things like that, because you can always go back in there with your PanPastel or with your alcohol marker and fix it. So let's fix it. I'm going to take my pastels and just add some color in the areas where the white is. There you go. Looks much better already. And I can totally mix that. And if the color is too dark or you don't like it, you can just go over it with a lighter color or a different color, because the PanPastels are so opaque. So you can fix even that. And now my print is finished, but if I want to, I could still work on there. I could add some details, like in the sunglasses, for instance, and in the lips. I could draw on there or write on there or even stamp on there. Like in this one, the one that I showed at the beginning, I added the little stars in her hair with a white marker. So there are all kinds of things that you still can do afterwards. But I think I really like this print the way it is. It doesn't need much more, I think. So now let's move to the one that we set aside because the stamps had to dry. Now I can color them with PanPastel too. I could also take, I could use Posca markers to color them, but since we're doing PanPastel tonight, I'm going to color them with PanPastel. So let's just give the stars some nice colors. So you might wonder why I would do all of this on the plate and then risk losing all my work when I pull the print. Why don't I do this straight into my art journal? Well, first of all, of course, the tracing of the image you can't do in your art journal or on your card without putting it on the plate. But for instance, the stamping, why don't I do the stamping after I made the print? Well, this is the reason that I can so easily color in my stamps right now, because even though I go on top of the black will be on top when I pull the print. So if I stamp on the paper and I want to color in my stamps afterwards, the only thing I can do is use translucent products, because otherwise you will not see the details in the stamps anymore. And besides that, it's just fun. It's just fun that you can do it. And so, yeah, I think it's very relaxing working like this. And also it's also kind of like when I do this would do this straight into my art journal, I would constantly have the feeling that it has to, that the outcome has to be really nice because it's in my journal. And when I work on cards like this, I don't really care, because if I mess up, I can just throw away the card. But if it's a nice one, if the print is nice, I collect all those prints and bind them into a little journal later, and I don't have any failures in my art journal. Yeah, I know that's bad, but I like my journals to be perfect. Are you like that? I bet some of you are. So again, I'm going to add some paint. And I'm going to try and make this layer a little bit thinner than the one I did before. So I'm rolling off some of the paint to make sure that the layer isn't too thick. And now let's pull the print. So there we go. Rub firmly. Let's see what this print brings us. There we go. Yay! So this is what I just made together with this one. Then I made this afternoon, and this one too. And of course, you don't have to do faces or parts of the human body. You can do whatever you want, right? So if you have like a really cool magazine with animal prints or photos, or you want to do flowers or nature or whatever, anything that is hard for you to draw by yourself, you can just take a photo or a picture and use it. You could even use your own photos with your own friends and family members. Another fun thing to do is, instead of printing on white paper, is printing on book paper. So I have an example here that I made a little while ago. So this is like the first print I made. The print, oh, where is that? Where did that one go? My first print. This one. This was my first print, the simple one. So if you do the simple one, but you print it on book paper, on a sheet of book paper, then you get a totally different look, right? It adds so much interest to have the writing shining through, or maybe you could do music paper or something like that, which is really cool too. So this was my demo, and I'm going to turn my phone a little bit now because I would like to answer some questions and I can't read them this way. So I'm going to flip the phone a little bit. Can you pull a ghost print with pastels? Yes, you can. So definitely, if you use, for instance, only pastels, then you can make a second print or maybe even a third print. They will be have a much softer look. But the thing is, if you do it with this technique, there are no black lines left. So you will only get the color and not the outlines, not the drawing. So for this specific technique where you combine it with the alcohol ink or with the stamping, it would not be the best thing to do. But if you use only, for instance, stencils and PanPastel, then of course, yes, you can make 2 or 3 prints. And as you could see, my jelly plate looks horrible right now, and I will not be able to get this off with just a baby wipe or by washing it, but you use some baby oil, and I will actually show it right now. So let's put these aside. So you just add some drops, a couple of drops of baby oil, and you take a wipe and you will totally clean everything off. So before you start using this plate again, you have to wash it with some soft soap and some warm water, because it's very greasy now, of course. But as you can see, my plate is totally clean. So yeah, I guess that's it. Any other questions? The weight of my card. Well, this is the heaviest type of printing paper, like copier paper, that I can find, like in Staples, for instance. And if I'm right, it's 200 grams, which would be about 90 lbs, something like that. So the heaviest card that goes into your printer. Do you use your own photos? You can use your own photos. So you could print your own pictures and use them. But today I only used photos from magazines. But you can also find all kinds of nice pictures online. If you want to do a specific theme or anything, look for something. You can find them online, or you can use old books, whatever you want. Okay, I think that's it for today. Thank you all so much. Hopefully see you again next time. Bye bye.